Hi, Misha here, and with nearly 40 years of production and 10 million guns and 3 dozen different models, trying to pick just 5 Glocks when there's so many variations is going to be a tough one. But I do it for you guys. Number 5. The Glock G26 3rd generation. This is the sub-compact, or baby Glock as it was known when it came out. 3.5-inch barrel, double stack, 10-round mag, as standard. The usual. At the time this was introduced, having a small polymer compact gun was pretty novel, frankly. In number 4, we have the Glock 19 Gen 2. Generation 2 was introduced in 1988, and really the number of Generation 1 19s is extremely small. So for practical purposes, we can say that this version here, the compact, came out with Gen 2. It's designed to be light and compact, while still being practical for duty carry. It has about a 1/2-inch shorter barrel at 4 inches, and about a 1/2-inch shorter grip than the full-size version. Standard capacity is 15 rounds, and double stack mags. And has been very successful with both military and police users for decades. As for number 3, we have the original Glock 17 Generation 1. Essentially the version first introduced in 1982 in limited production, went into full production 85, and was replaced by the Generation 2 in 88-89. It has a barrel just a hair under 4.5 inches. Standard magazine cap is 17 rounds. This really is just your basic duty Glock. Large enough with a long enough sight radius for military and police use, but still relatively light, compact, slim, and trim, you know? Alright, moving on to number 2. Boy, it's getting hard to pick because of how many differences, what a wide range there are with Glocks, you know? But it was a tough call, but number 2, the Glock G34. The competition, or sorry guys, tactical model, based on the 17L long slide, long barrel. This was introduced in the late 90s. Has a 5.3 inch barrel with extended slide, and it's ported at the top to keep the mass proper. Longer sight radius, adjustable rear sight, lightened 4.5 pound trigger, extended mag release, extended slide release. Can take standard 17 magazines. This one is a Generation 3 from the early 21st century. While this was designed for competition shooting, it has also been used by police departments, especially SWAT teams, for its greater balance, stability, range, and accuracy, and just the overall more ergonomic controls. So a very capable gun. With that said, what will be at number 1? And for my number 1 favorite Glock of all time, we have the M81 combat knife. This is the version that has the saw-toothed edge. It's made as a utility knife. Has typical Glock grip. It also can have this plug removed and work as a bayonet with the Steyr AUG. And it has very much a matching Glock polymer lightweight scabbard. There's also a version without the sawtooth in the back, known as the 78. And this has been standard issue within the Austrian military. For nearly 40 years. Okay. Actual number 1, since I figure you want to see my ranking of Glock pistols. To be fair, you didn't say that, so, you know, how am I to know? At number 1, we have the 19X, which is the market version, the civilian, the commercial version of what Glock submitted to the I was thinking of HGM. It's late, guys. The XM17 trials. The modular handgun system that ultimately Sig Sauer won with their P320. This is a Glock 19 length slide and barrel, so 4 inches, with a Glock 17 length grip frame. No finger grooves like on a Gen 3, and these would come with either 17 round flush fit or 19 round extended magazines, and they have a lanyard loop and herein coyote. And are mostly a Generation 5, although not quite. And they use the new recoil system. I always thought the baby Glock looked best with a, well, back in the day it was 31 round mag. Now these days they're 33 because of the +2 base plate. If you can't tell, this video is done a little bit tongue-in-cheek, you know, a little bit kind of, not jokingly, but, you know, informally, because there's so much out there on the Glock. But haven't done a top video in a little bit, and it's kind of the dog days of winter now, January, and just felt like pulling the Glocks out and putting them on the table. In reality, sorry guys, I want to get a frog in my throat all of a sudden. In reality, these are the ones that I just own. And I kind of ranked them based on shooting, but also historical. It doesn't escape me, even though I kind of think the Glock is, well, there's a lot to be said about the Glock. A lot of good things. They are extremely reliable, very simplistic controls, very forward-thinking for the 1980s. But since that time, they've kind of, not stagnated, but they've got essentially one product with lots of variations. And it does kind of a little bit amuse me whenever true Glock aficionados get very excited over a new generation. When really the differences are often quite minor. I mean, especially from, 1 to 2 to 3. With 4 and 5, they're doing a little more, but then they kind of go back and reverse sometimes, and you can tell sometimes they're just tinkering with stuff, or they'll make a big deal out of, this generation has a reversible mag catch, or back straps, when other brands have been doing that for years. But it's still Glock. The big deal with the 43 being the first single stack Glock to come out. Yeah, but a lot of people have done single stack 9s well before that. Oh well. Just felt like talking Glocks this night. Why not, guys? How are you doing? They are good duty guns, as I've said in some other videos. First time I ever saw one was a Generation 1 like this. It was my brother's service gun back, it would have been the very late 80s. And it was kind of unusual to see a polymer framed black gun. I mean, in the 80s, people were still just getting comfortable with automatics over revolvers. So to go from, say, a Smith & Wesson 686 or even 66 to a polymer-framed 9mm that could hold 17 plus 1 rounds, plus that could carry another 2 magazines, or as people back then always habitually called them, clips on their belt. It was a bit more than some people were willing to accept at the time, but of course, as time went on, many naysayers have become believers, and of course a lot of the early myths about airports and stuff were dismissed. The Glock 17, I really like the look of the Gen 1 just for nostalgia, but I have to admit the grip is quite basic and slippery. It's pretty, yeah. Not a lot of elegance to that grip. So the Gen 2, the textured grip, really is one of my favorites, without the grooves, but still with the texturing on the front and the back. Didn't have the rail. I really like the 19 barrel length, the 4-inch barrel. It's a very light, handy little critter. Now these do have a ribbed, for your pleasure, or rather the ATF's pleasure, target trigger. That's for points. Ever since 1968, all pistols that get imported have to have a certain number of points. You see, the 17 has the smooth trigger. That's because it has a long enough barrel grip. But the 19's a little small, so they give it a target trigger for points. It's also worth pointing out, of course, as you know, that these don't have safeties as such, at least not external manual ones. They all have multiple automatic internal safeties, along with Glock's very famous safe action system that many have copied, some much to their detriment. Smith & Wesson. But, yeah, and of course the finish on the metal has changed over the years. A lot of people think they started off with the orange peel. They actually didn't. That would come later. For example, this has it. Like I said, this is a Generation 3. And this one I bought brand new in 2001, I believe, 2002. The long barrel and controls are much more comfortable. And again, especially for the era I bought this in, you didn't have near the options back then. One of the draws during the assault weapons ban for a Glock, many pistols you could not get high-capacity mags for because they had to be pre-94. But you could quite easily find pre-94 Glock mags. So that was kind of an early thing in its favor. The lighter trigger and all that was nice too. This one really is nice to shoot, but of course it is a little more front heavy because of everything being longer. So that's why it was right in the middle. Of course, the baby Glock with the... I still think that's neat. Don't know. Is kind of lowest on my list. It is neat for its very small size. I know today this doesn't seem that small, but when this was introduced in the mid-90s, this was tiny, considering that it could, take any standard Glock mags. And its flush-shot mag was 10 rounds, so you had 10 plus 1 and a gun this small, 3.5-inch barrel. It was made for the civilian market, but although the 26 became very popular as a secondary or backup gun for police officers. Notice it doesn't have the rail, even though it's a newer model. It's a newer generation gun in general. But yeah, like any of these subcompacts, I don't think any people would think it's exactly fun to shoot. Although they're certainly not the least pleasant of them all. And this started really the dual recoil spring. And my number one as a shooter surprised me, the 19X. Now, like I said a minute ago, I do like the 19 barrel size. But I thought, the 19X, whatever. But I picked it up for my birthday a year ago. Took months to shoot it. Finally did. And it was a lot of fun. It uses the dual recoil spring, like newer Glocks. But unlike the 4, it has the ungrooved grip. It's flared out at the bottom for shooting ergonomics and also to kind of give a front stop for quicker magazine insertions. Rail under the barrel. Of course, it has this relatively unique finish for a Glock. Reversible mag catch. It does not have the rib trigger because it has enough points, I suppose. Even though it does have the straight ungrooved grip, it has the thumb rest, I should say. And it comes standard with night sights. And it also comes standard with the extended 19 round and flush fit 17 round mags. I was just honestly super pleased with how it shot. It's fun. At least as fun as a Glock can be. So yeah, I'd say just in pure shooting terms. And also the connection to the modular handgun system trials, the XM17 trials, is kind of neat. The Glock released this version, and it's not just me, it's been a very popular seller for them. So for whatever reason, a lot of folks like it. It has received a little flack for having full-size grip, but with compact barrel slide, saying that, you know, this is the hard part to conceal. But on the other hand, it does give you just a really very positive purchase on the gun. And because of the barrel being shorter, the balance point is more towards the rear, especially when it's fully loaded. I don't know, it just kind of surprised me. And of course the bayonet. I put it in as kind of the obligatory joke entry, like I normally do on these top videos. But really and sincerely, I think the Glock bayonet's neat. Well, Glock knife. Typically a combat field knife, but again, like I said, it can be used as a bayonet. If you pull that plug out, it can go on the AUG. That's why this is curved up here. And I just like how the texture, the feel of the scabbard and the grips is oh so noticeably Glock. It's got about a 6.5 inch blade. It's 11 inches and some change overall. So it's a very light, handy feeling. I know typically Jay does the knife videos, but to be fair, I've done a few bayonet videos over the years too. I should get the bayonet lug from my AUG now and put it on there sometime. Why not? But yeah, for, you know, the 17 here gives me 80s nostalgia. The 34 here was one of my very first pistols I bought brand new. And my first Glock overall. I've had a few different 26s over the year. It's a 26. Just a used gun that came in the store. I've had this 19. I think it was one of the CDNN ones that were police trade-in a few years ago, about 6 years back. Again, I always like the 19 size and style, especially in the Gen 2. But yeah, those are the Glocks I own. Why I own them. I did have a Generation 4 17, but kind of had it because it filled in for the British military. Is that they've been using since around 2013. But I had some construction remodeling done on my house, and one of the guys kind of likes to work for partial trade, and he was looking for a Glock, and I thought, you know what? I've got the Gen 1 17. I'm really liking this 19X. I've got the 34. I really don't need the Gen 4 Glock 17, so I let him have it. It's partial trade for his work. He was happy, worked well for me. Why not? And I can always get another one, I'm sure. That's the thing about Glocks. I kind of view them, with some exceptions, especially like Generation 1 and 2s. But, you know, newer ones, 3s, 4s, 5s, they're kind of hammers. They're tools. High quality hammers, but hammers. They do a job, they do it very well, but they're just not very flashy. I think you guys know that Jay and I are a little more on the Walther camp. Some people are more into SIGs, some people more into HKs. We like those too. In fact, we shot my HK Mark 23 last month. Put up a video on it, so yeah, we really love all guns. We're not really haters on any of them. I would have to say I respect the Glock more than I honestly get the feels for it. I mean, some of my friends like Chris Bartacci and my local friend Tim, they love Glocks. Like, that's just their jam. That they get really excited. They have several, and that's awesome. I kind of feel that way about Walthers, but they just don't quite trip my trigger. But I do understand why they do for some people. And I'm sure there are people that collect hammers out there too. Alrighty guys, I'm going to turn in for the night. If you have any questions or comments or would like to share your own favorite Glocks, we'd love to hear about them in the comments below. If you could, like, share, subscribe, and if you'd like to help support the channel, please check out the link to our Patreon page. This is Misha, and we'll catch you very soon. Next time.